Hi, welcome back. This is the Overflow podcast, and my name is Bronwyn Dieter. I'm your host today, along with my co-host Becky Webb. But I'm actually going to just ask her a lot of questions and hear some of her story today. Her story, well, part of her story is around her son's health and chronic illness. And we were just before the call now, just chatting a little bit about being tired as moms. And that can definitely happen for a variety of reasons, but especially when you're dealing with something chronic in a child or spouse or yourself. And even when you get to a good place of stability and health, you can still have this feeling of weariness. And so we want to chat a little bit about that too, the reality of it, some of the things we can do to combat it. But part of the reality is just acceptance and knowing that we're going to need to pace ourselves and be grateful and look for our wins and not live in the negative all the time. So, welcome, Becky. We're always all here. Today, Andrea is not here with us, so we're just going to do this one-on-one, which is kind of a fun thing to
Yeah,
do. But how are you today?
I'm good. I'm pretty good. Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit before. For some reason, I'm just having kind of a tired day. I'm not really sure why, but doing good today. Yeah.
Good. Well, will you just tell us kind of a little history of your family, but specifically around your son's illness, how old he was? It was Addison's disease he was diagnosed with. Is that right? Which is an adrenal insufficiency and failure.
Right. Yeah. It's so back in 2019, my son got sick. He got a fever. He got really ill. And, we were, t- I was taking care of him all week. And then actually, one of the days, he just seemed like really weak. And so I actually took him to an urgent care and they did a bunch of testing, told me he was fine. He just had a virus, sent him home. And then by Friday, I think he got sick on a Monday. And by Friday, he was like all of a sudden just like puking. Well, interestingly enough, so this was 2019. He was about 11, almost 12 years old at the time. And actually, we had a similar episode happen when he was 5. So it was about 5 years prior to that, where he'd actually gotten like very ashen gray, and we'd taken him to an ER, and he was rushed down. We had lived in a rural area at the time. He was rushed down the mountain because they told me that his sodium levels were very low. So when he was 5, he was never diagnosed with anything. They just told me to feed him a lot of salt, basically. Um, and then when he was almost 12 and it happened again, it was just like a similar instance. And so we're like, we're going to the ER. When he started throwing up, we just took him to the ER. And interestingly, like when he was 5, he was like unconscious. Both times got an ambulance ride down from the hospital that we'd taken him to, down a couple hours down the mountain to the big children's hospital. And in 2019, he was formally diagnosed with Addison's disease. And so Addison's is, yeah, he was diagnosed with primary Addison's, which is adrenal insufficiency, adrenal failure. As a mom that's always, especially a mom that's like always focused on our health, it always had been an interest of mine. My dad was a chiropractor. And then when my kids were even young, I was like wanting to do all the healthy things and keep them healthy. Like this was like a real shock to my system when the doctor comes in and was like, he has Addison's. And she said, he has to be on medication for the rest of his life. And I was just like totally devastated.
Yeah.
Because Addison's one is autoimmune, is considered autoimmune, and then yeah, again they say that you can't live without your corticosteroids. So they put you on those corticosteroids because you can't live without your cortisol. Even though we see all these bad things about cortisol, you cannot live without cortisol.
Hmm.
Um, so that was the issue with him back in 2019, and it's wild because yeah, now I mean all these years down the road, thankfully things look very different for us, but that it's been quite a journey, and it's been quite a journey for him, thankfully, he actually doesn't seem to remember a lot of it. But it was, definitely a huge journey for me as his mom.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
imagine that was so scary. And there's so many parents who receive a diagnosis that is just really scary,
Yeah.
right? With their
Yeah. I mean,
kids.
we were in the ICU. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like we really almost lost him twice,
Hmm.
really.
Hmm.
So it's very scary. And I didn't understand what was going on, especially the first time. And then even the second time, because he'd never been diagnosed with Addison's until the second time. So I didn't really even fully know what was happening.
Hmm.
I do recall the very first time I asked for an endocrinologist and they wouldn't give me an endocrinologist. They were like, oh, it's his kidneys, it's his kidneys. Well, he's never really had any problems that we know of with his kidneys. And so that was just interesting looking back because the second time around, the endocrinologist walked in and I'm like, I asked for you 5 years ago.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was, yeah, it's funny too. A lot of things that your mom gut just kind of knows.
Hmm. And then it's validating, but also like devastating, right?
Yeah,
Like
and frustrating.
I knew I needed more help for this kid. And yeah. And
Uh-huh.
then finally the validation, finally the diagnosis. So let's step back from your story a little bit and connect the dots for all of our listeners around the adrenals. And so Addison's is this one extreme end of the spectrum where the adrenals have failed. They're not making the corticosteroids, including and specifically cortisol.
Mhm.
And a lot of people hear the words adrenals and, are kind of thinking about their adrenals or working on the adrenals because of stress.
Mhm.
So the adrenals are these small glands that sit on top of the kidneys, and that's why they have this relationship with sodium, potassium regulating in the body. And so in your son, that first time around when he was 5, the adrenals weren't doing great, so they were not able to help the kidneys retain sodium. So it was like the kidneys weren't having a problem. They were doing exactly what they were told to do by the adrenals, which were having the problem and not able to say, "Hey, hang on to more sodium."
Mhm.
So, so a lot of people, women, who are dealing with adrenal fatigue, will find that they are craving salt because, again, their kidneys are letting go of sodium
Mhm.
because their adrenals are stressed, but not in failure yet. Then we have this other extreme of the adrenal health, which is adrenals that are like on overload. And so, again, stressed, but actually working pretty well, like working overtime and putting out tons of cortisol. And then the body is stressed in other ways. It is retaining its sodium, but also putting on belly weight, unable to sleep, a lot of anxiety. So, the adrenals are one of those things we want to have be kind of dialed in the middle where they're.
Yeah, I think we don't realize how much yeah, our adrenals regulate a lot of those mineral levels. So I think, yeah, people just, when your body is an adrenal failure, like my son was, his body was washing all its sodium.
Hmm.
When your cells have this sodium potassium pump, in order to create that electrical energy within your cells, you have to have that like equilibrium in the body, right? That homeostasis in the body that's keeping the body in a good place. So it's interesting how when we get under that extreme stress, um, yeah, I mean, the all those mineral levels will fluctuate in the body.
Hmm.
And so I think, a lot of times we do, I think a lot of times too, when we do some of this blood testing and we look at where it's high or what's low, we're like, oh, I need more of that. But at times it's actually related to stress on what your body can or cannot even hold on to. And these stresses
Hmm.
look different. So when I look back on my son, I think, okay, there was a lot of stress on his body. I'm pretty sure we lived in like a mold ridden house at the time.
Mm. Wow.
I know my bathroom in that home had quite a bit of mold. So he was dealing with that. We had a lot of EMF stress. He is like, I remembered that his seat at the table was like kind of next to like the electrical box. It was a very small home at
Hmm.
the time. And I think like how much time he spent at that table, I think that electrical box really bothered him too. So between mold and electrical stress, as a mom, I was like totally burnt out. We had no family in the area. I had a pretty short fuse. So the poor kid was probably also like dealing with this frazzled mom, right? So kids also learn a lot of this nervous system health from us, unfortunately.
That's
Um,
true. That's true.
so his nervous system wasn't really in a good place because my nervous system wasn't in a good place. Um, and so I think when we look even at when we're taking labs or whatever, we need to remember to look at this full picture too. So I'm thinking back like on his health and like all these stresses with his adrenals and everything going up and down. And I'm thinking like the full picture of health is these are the things that were going on in our environment.
Mm-hmm.
His body was stressed. It was washing salt. It doesn't mean he didn't get enough salt. It doesn't mean, and that
Mm-hmm.
that happens too in our environment. And I just think that's really important to remember when any of us are looking at the picture of our health or dealing with our children's health.
Mm. Yeah. That's really good, and I think that's important, particularly when we're dealing with a kid,
Mhm.
to just look at the environment, but realize like we are part of that environment too.
Yeah.
So I want you to get into some of the things and the therapies you use to help him heal, because I think his story is remarkable. Particularly, they told you he'll need to be on medication forever, and he's
Mhm.
not now on medication, right?
He has not been on medication for, I believe it's 4.5 or 5 years now. So that's huge
Yeah.
because basically, he would be considered in any medical community in full remission.
Mhm.
And so that's huge. And the thing is too, I mean, the kid plays football. He played football in the summer heat. Other parents I know another parent that her daughter has been diagnosed with Addison, and like she cannot handle changing of the seasons.
Mhm.
Really tanks her body. So when we moved from fall to winter, like her body like just can't handle it. And
Wow.
those were the reservations I had when I was like, if like for him being on steroids the rest of his life, I really struggled with that because I was watching all these other parents with their kids being diagnosed with Addison's. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're miserable. Like even on the medications, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, I just don't want that for my son. So as a mom that just believes fully that the body can heal itself,
Mhm.
I just wanted to fight for that for him. And I mean, it put a lot of stress on me on one hand. And on the other hand, I'm just so grateful because last summer I watched him play football in the Missouri heat. And it gets pretty hot here in the summer. His teammates were like cramping and puking, and he was good. Like he was good. And so I'm like, oh my
Amazing.
gosh, his body has healed itself, which is incredible.
Could retain its minerals, keep its electrolytes in
Yeah.
balance,
I mean, he's not even cramping
handle
or anything.
handle the stress of heat.
Remarkable. Yeah,
Yeah.
handle the stress of heat, handle the stress of losing
Exercise.
fluids, all those things. Like it's really amazing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Good
So
job. Good job, Mama. I want to commend you. Like it's been a lot of work and a long road.
it's been
A
a
lot of
long road. I mean,
a
I'm
lot of
in
investment.
recovery now because I was so stressed over his recovery.
Yeah. That was the question I wanted to ask you. Like, how did you run those parallel tracks of healing yourself and your nervous system while working on his health in a situation where like if you got it wrong for a day, he could die. Like that's a really stressful. And there are other parents. I think of parents with a kid with type 1 diabetes, right?
Mhm.
It's like if you get it wrong for a few hours, that's just a scary place to be.
That is scary. I mean, Addison's very extreme. So, I mean, some kids can have some other autoimmune conditions. It's not quite as extreme. And this is very extreme, which is, it can be scary. And he was on those steroids for 2 years
Mhm.
because, like, I also think at times medication can be a band aid,
Mhm.
and I wasn't going to put my kid in a position that, yeah, I needed to take him to the hospital, had to take him to the hospital, had to worry about his health like that in that way.
Mhm.
And so I also wanted to do it safely, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
we didn't do any kind of cold turkey like crazy medication. I believed he did
mhm.
need those medications
Mhm.
for 2 years. Now, what I didn't believe is that he needed them for the rest of his life,
Mhm.
right? So I also want to make that pretty clear is that sometimes we do need the medications.
Mhm.
You always need to work with your doctor, right?
Right.
Like you always need to seek that medical help, and just make sure you're real educated and make sure you're getting help from other people. And that was one thing that I just really sought out when he was sick. We started on a few different tracks, and that was one thing that was hard on me, is that his condition was so very rare too, is that I couldn't find very many people that wanted to help because
Yeah.
they knew it was scary themselves, and it was kind of rare, so not a lot of people had experience with it.
hmm
So that was what was hard. I had to go find the few people I saw that said, "Oh yeah, you can recover for it." I found like two, and
That gave you hope.
yeah, and I was like, "Okay, this is hopeful for me that like we can recover from this. We'll do this.
hmm
We're doing the steroids. We can recover, but I'm hopeful that your body has the ability to heal."
hmm Well, and one thing about doing a medication, as I quote Band-Aid, Band-Aid can be kind of a negative term, but the reality is a Band-Aid is really helpful, right?
Yeah.
Like Band-Aid to stop the bleeding, I mean, figuratively, right? There's no bleeding going on in the situation, but that idea of let's just give ourselves some time, let's stop the crisis. And actually, even in the case of adrenals, there's the idea of just giving the adrenals a break, right? Like they're not required to make any corticosteroids. They're not being asked by any of the other systems of the body to make any because it's being made. And so there's sufficient amounts in the body. And
Mhm.
those adrenals have this break where they can heal. Or if you're giving them the right things, they can do the healing and then you can begin doing the taper. I myself have taken corticosteroids for adrenals, not for diagnosed Addison's. I'm sure it was not as extreme as that, but um, I have some personal experience with this situation and realizing like, hey, this Band-Aid can be helpful.
Mhm.
And but I love what you said that like just because we chose to do it for a time, I didn't believe it had to be forever,
Mhm.
even though I was told that, right? I took that time to seek out and to work on finding those therapies. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the therapies you brought in for that?
So, well, the first thing I did was I was recommended a woman in Texas. She did a cheek swab. She did a bunch of like DNA kind of analysis. She sent me like some drops for him. I actually have no idea what they were. I only went with her because she came recommended from some other people that I trusted. I actually, yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that therapy worked, but it was a step in the right direction. So I felt like, okay, we're walking in the right direction. I was learning more things. She was teaching me a few things. At the time, I even sent his medication to a lab. She had his medication sent to a lab, and she picked up some things that were not good in his medication and kind of
Interesting.
was like asked me to change brands, which was an interesting part of the. And then I told his doctor, and his doctor freaked out. So that was interesting. But after that, I that's when I really went on to study more about minerals and started studying root cause protocol. Had taken some other hair tissue mineral analysis classes. I wanted to understand mineral balance in the body because really before that, I didn't understand how those minerals worked with the cells,
Mhm.
like we were talking about earlier, with that salt and the potassium and the magnesium and all those electrolytes. And I didn't understand how that process worked until I really started digging into it. And so I felt like that was fascinating. So then, yeah, I mean, you and I had met, or because you had studied the root cause protocol and done
Mhm.
it yourself. And then I started taking the classes for it. So we put him on the root cause protocol for
And can you describe what that is or what that looks like?
yeah.
What are you adding in?
Yeah, so we were doing, I mean, I was doing the hair tissue mineral analysis with him, looking at his minerals. We definitely had added in vitamin C. We had been doing like those electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and vitamin C. Well, in those adrenal cocktail form,
hmm
so we would
hmm
do adrenal cocktails with him 2 to 3 times a day.
hmm Oh, wow. hmm
At the time, I was making sure he always had plenty of sodium in his diet.
hmm hmm
So I was actually doing like the full like LMNT like electrolyte packets with him with pretty
hmm
high sodium all the time because I knew that he had such a loss of sodium.
hmm
And it kind of, I could tell that he felt better on very high amounts of sodium.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a lot of that. Um, and also we were doing like some iodine with him,
Mm-hmm.
recommended by Morley Robbins, who designed the root cause protocol.
Mm-hmm.
I had done some personal consulting with him. And then also I was really trying to work on some like nervous system retraining with him. And so we did some different protocols for just like nervous system retraining that I think
Mm-hmm.
actually really helped reset his nervous system to a place where he could even accept those minerals. Because sometimes when
Yeah.
our nervous system's so hyperactive, it just continues to let go of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was important for me. And I don't know, you kind of asked me earlier, like how I navigated this, like with him and me. And
Mm-hmm.
part of me wishes I would have done it better because I feel like
Of
I'm
course.
still working on it now,
Mm-hmm.
because, it is a source of stress when you're like, okay, my kid was really in a really bad position. Like we really could have lost him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it put a lot of stress on me that I felt like I've had to kind of circle back now, like
Mm-hmm.
a couple years later when I knew he was fine, to like start recovering myself and recovering my own nervous system.
Mm-hmm. And
So
then like letting go of the trauma of it, or really just like dealing with which one? Like
both,
both.
both
Releasing past
releasing
trauma.
trauma. It took me, I feel like a couple years ago, you could have told me he's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably in the last like 8 or 10 months that I'm like, he's fine. Like, he's
You
fine.
know it.
I know
Yeah.
it. I know he's fine. Like watching him on the football field, he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a really long time to be able to tell myself, he's okay. Like, you can take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we did the root cause protocol, and then I also got into plant stem cells with him, which are
Mm-hmm.
also very renewing to your adrenals, especially one like blackcurrant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found some different protocols along, like with plant stem cells specifically, also that that are designed for supporting the adrenals.
Okay.
And so we've been
So
doing
what
those. I
is
actually
that
have them on those.
is that like a tincture, like a drop you take it to the tongue or in water? Is that what
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah. So plant stem cells come from like the buds, like they're all immature plants. So, in herbalism, a lot of times you'll get the mature plants, you'll be using the mature plants. So, if you're taking any kind of like tea, herbal tincture, it's typically from those mature plants. Plant stem cells are a tincture similar to, that you might think when you're taking a tincture of something else, but it only comes from the immature plants.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of like molecules in there, natural like plant-based chemicals in there that are only made in immature plants. And so they call them stem cells because it kind of is like a person stem cells, that it's rejuvenating for the body. So they're very rich
Right.
in minerals. They naturally detox the body so they can naturally remove heavy metals and things like that. And then they're replenishing you with like those good minerals and all those really great things that come only with immature plants that are like, getting ready to bud kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they're really powerful. And it's kind of a little known, um, it's kind of a little known herbalism thing. Like it's an old tradition, but not a lot of people use it.
It makes so much sense when you think about like how sprouts are so packed with minerals, but really just like that life force. And I've recently been just beginning to study light and how, light in our circadian rhythm is so important, but literally like the food we eat when it's harvested, the kind of light that it received because it's energy in that plant from
Mhm.
the light of spring, summer, fall, and then you think about when you're putting that into your body. So this is a whole different field. But when you're talking about these buds, they're really going to be spring light, right? And like those
Yeah.
light frequencies, those are the molecules in that food, or in this case, an herb, that are regenerating and call for like renewal and growth And that's exactly what you wanted in his adrenals.
Yeah, so that's cool that you came out or that you brought that up because Dr. Canello, he's a chiropractor herbalist. He lives in Italy. He teaches a lot on these plant stem cells, and he's just extremely brilliant. I don't know how many degrees he holds, but he talks a lot about that. Like he found out that when you have these plant stem cells, he found all these light energies in them.
Hmm.
And they kind of like vortex themselves, which is also known that when like water
Hmm.
rejuvenates itself, through the creeks and it's flowing and stuff like that. It's kind of like self-vortexing like that. And so these plant stem cells will do that too. Like I'll put them in water and I can tell they're doing that. And so
Wow.
he noticed that in his lab, that they do kind of hold these light energies. And so when you analyze them, you can find all these polyphenols and all these really cool things that are in plants that we know are also in our essential oils, some of them. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, there is a lot of light energy from it. And it's
Hmm.
really cool. And so when I found out about these from actually a friend of mine that took the root cause protocol classes with her, she owns the company that I use the products from. I was like, this is just so fascinating. And it does have a lot to do with that light energy of those small plant buds.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me more about this company and this connection you have. Does she teach classes about the products she makes, or is she just an herbalist and she's collecting and making tinctures? And it's here in
Um,
North America, is that right? Or is
yeah,
she in Italy?
she is based out of Charlotte. And so when we used to live in North Carolina, I had met her through my RCP classes. And then I actually went down and met her. I met her in person and seen where she keeps all her product and all that stuff. And she showed me around their warehouse. And then she gets her products from Italy. So the products themselves will be shipped from Italy. The company is called Nature Provides.
Okay.
Um, and I've personally used a lot of these with my clients. I use them, with my kids, with my family, with my clients. I've used them, well, for years since I felt like they were so pivotal in helping Caden recover that, and then, and so, yes, I mean, within her company, she actually has a documentary out that's won a lot of awards. She had stage 4 cancer
Hmm.
and then found this company. She had stage 4 cancer, can't remember what treatment. It kind of like was in remission and then it came back.
Hmm.
And she found this company and started using these. Like she's like total vibrantly healthy now and is a practitioner herself. So she takes clients herself as well and has like a business partner and they both take clients and then yeah and then she has this company and sells these products. She's written a book, has a documentary, and I think I saw that she's coming out with another documentary too.
Wow, that's really cool.
Her story, yeah.
We'll have to get those links. And also, if you have an ordering link, we'll put those in the show notes so that people can follow that if they need to find any of those therapies.
Yeah.
So it sounds like regenerating tissues and glands and organs, like for your son with adrenals, also for detox and immune recovery, as in cancer. Are
Mhm.
there other applications for these types of things?
Yeah, there's lots of applications. I mean, they're really fantastic for immune support, for sure. So we use them for that. I mean, lymphatic drainage, definitely for detoxification, just about on
Hmm.
every level. So we know that, if we really can remove that interference from what's going on
Hmm.
in the body, that's when the body finds true health, right? So
Hmm.
it's like typically when we have any kind of condition, no matter what the diagnosis is, somewhere you have interference,
Hmm.
right? So it can be anything from like a physical interference, environmental interference, it can be emotional interference, it can be a mix of all those things, right?
Hmm.
It can be spiritual interference. That's what happens when we're holistic beings is we have some kind of interference. And when the interference gets removed, God made our body to heal.
Hmm.
It just does
Move
it.
back into homeostasis.
Right. It goes back into homeostasis. And that's what homeostasis is. Like it's a state of healing. And so what we need to do is remove the interference. So these really can help remove that interference.
Mhm.
on that level. And so they have, yeah, like applications for just about everything.
I'm fascinated by what you said about when you put it in water, you can tell it's restructuring the water.
Yeah.
So, do you think it would be a good idea for anybody, but particularly for someone with a chronic health problem, to use something like this and structure like every glass of water that they take? Would
Yeah.
that be the way to do it?
I think it would be helpful. I mean, we think about, unfortunately, like our water these days, if it's from a tap, I mean, it's pretty much dead water, right? Our water is not
Yeah.
structured. And it's interesting because even like I always wonder, I've seen someone post about this the other day, but you know that like a lot of water towers and stuff now have like literally like um
An
towers
EMF?
on them, cell towers. There's
Yeah.
cell towers. And I'm like, I'm always looking at that like what is that doing to the water?
Hmm.
And there's lots of research, like Dr. Emoto that did all that research on like speaking into the water, those water crystals. Like that to me has always been fascinating because that's also energy, right? So
Yeah.
Dr. Emoto, the research he did was, he'd have water, and if you speak like negative things to the water, it would be like all like distorted, broken. And then if you'd speak like life to the water, like hope and joy and peace and like good things, it would be like these beautiful crystals.
Hmm. So he was like looking through a magnifying glass, right? Like he was,
Yeah.
and then taking photographs of
Frozen
it.
water. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you could see like the structure of that water and how
Right.
it was like chaotic with
Yeah.
bad things being spoken over it,
Yeah.
and then had reorganized itself and actually beautifully organized itself when these positive things were spoken. And there's so many connections around this, right? Because our bodies, like what percentage of us, it's like this, what is it, 95% of us or whatever is
Yeah.
water, right?
Insanely
Basically,
high.
we're
Yeah.
water. And then when we hear truth, and I think truly, actually, when we speak out loud, there's new research actually showing that when people just self coach them, talking to themselves and telling themselves out loud, like, it's going to be okay. And, oh, now I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to just have a great day. Like these kind of dumb little things but actually speaking out loud, that they are healthier. They're just
Yeah.
healthier people. And like they get well faster, they get sick less, they live longer, like all these health benefits. And then I think like, well, we're actually modeled in scripture to speak scripture and truth and to praise the Lord, like literally out loud, praise the Lord and say true things, positive things, remind ourselves of God's goodness. And would that not bring health to our bodies too,
Yeah.
right? As
Right.
our water restructures inside ourselves.
And that was one thing when we were doing all that nervous system retraining with my son was we were doing like these like positive visualizations with him of like what it would be like if you felt really good. And like I was doing this with him at 11, 12, and so like as I was trying to help him reverse this condition, and I'm just like, I mean, he didn't always tell me what was going on, but even children have like much wilder imaginations than adults typically.
Yeah, true.
And so I'm just like, I don't even know what he was thinking in his little brain, but I can only think like if we, yeah, like on a regular basis, continue to do those things, speak those things to ourselves, help kids think through these like futuristic things, like even if they're thinking about something super fun, like I would be like, think about like the most fun thing that you'd want to do, like what that does to the water in your body, like how that restructures it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the fact that we have science behind it, and it's not
Yeah.
like we could say it's not even totally like woo woo weird. It's just like there's science behind this and how it works, and that you are made of all this water
Mm-hmm.
and what it can do. And it just shows too, like what the opposite could do if you're thinking all these like thoughts or literally thinking like, oh, I'm stuck with this condition for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one thing I've told my clients over the years is I'm like, I know we get these diagnoses.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think a diagnosis can be helpful sometimes because you can know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But when
And
we give ourselves that label
mm-hmm.
and we say, this is who I am, which does happen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can even hear people say, I have I,
Right.
I am like basically these
Or
I have
yeah.
statements that they're
Or
just,
they'll say like my thyroid disease or my,
yes, all
they'll
the
call it like
time.
my, like it's like my thing, part of me, instead
Yeah.
of just like, oh, that was a
Becoming
label that was
part of your
given.
identity, like for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's so problematic when it comes to healing because then how can the body heal?
It's it's literally like a verbal self curse, right? When we
Yes.
keep talking about that diagnosis instead of now, like you said, it's important to know that diagnosis. If you weren't able to help your son heal till you knew what it was,
Yeah.
right? And actually, it could have been like you could have lost him if you hadn't known what it was because
Yeah.
it was dangerous. But then once you know what it is, then that's not what you keep speaking over yourself, right? Then
Right.
you speak over yourself what's coming and the health that your body is able to do. Every cell in our body is programmed with DNA for healing. It's
Yeah.
programmed with our perfect body. And then it has the ability to regenerate that. But like you said, there are these blockages. So that could be environmental, could be toxins, whether emotional, chemical, electromagnetic. So removing the toxins and then starting that healing process.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
exciting.
I mean, it's game changing because I just even think of my son is working at Chick-fil-A now,
Hmm.
which he's eating it more than I'd like, but he's working there. But he comes home last night, gets this, he's only been working there for 3 weeks. Football season ended. He went and
Yeah.
found himself a job. That's where he wanted to work. Comes home and he goes, Mom, like they gave him a customer service award last night.
Aw, good for him.
And like like he showed me on his team chat all the sweet things they said about him and how he was making real connections with customers and like he also is a totally different kid in every aspect. Like we're talking not only his health, but like mentally, emotionally, the way he connects with people. And to me, like that is just evidence of that his body, yeah, was able to like fully heal because when he was very small, he was very reserved. He was very, and I didn't know it was long. Actually, one of his teachers told me that they thought I should go get him evaluated for like learning disability or autism.
Wow.
And we never did because I didn't think that was what was wrong. But like here he is, yeah, like super outgoing, like totally a good connector. He's like, Mom, I didn't know I was such an extrovert. Like, like all these things are coming up with him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. It just makes me so happy that this is his future. Instead
Yeah.
of me saying, 5 or 6 years ago, oh, he's gonna be on this drug for the rest of his life. And like just
Mhm.
determining his future for him.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing to find in high school, right? Like to
Yeah.
bloom out and have your personality blooming like that. And I can say when I was in adrenal fatigue, so my adrenals were very low,
Mhm.
not Addison's, but I had lost my sense of humor. And I did recognize that because no funny movie was funny to me. I
Mm.
was just like, that's really stupid, like it all seemed very, very stupid because when you're in that place, and there was like a depression piece in that too, when you're so low, then
Mhm.
it's like, you're not wearing the rose colored glasses, you're wearing like blue colored glasses. And that's everything in life is so sad. And no jokes make it funny. I don't think I was probably very fun to be married to that for that time, right? Because like fun was not fun to me. But the body is experiencing so much stress, like everything is stressful. Normal life is just like stress, and it seems like the world is going to end. And so funny isn't funny. And I did read that about adrenal fatigue, and I could recognize that I was even experiencing it, but just even recognize it doesn't mean you can pull out of it. Doesn't mean you can be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I should regain a sense of humor. No, you just can't until your adrenals are supported to a place where you are stable and
Yeah.
can thrive. But that again is evidence that he's doing really well. Because you really
Yeah.
can't make friends without a sense of humor, I don't think, right? Like, I
I
mean,
don't think so.
you got to be able to interact and enjoy people and yeah, enjoy
Yeah,
life a little.
I don't think so. So it's just, yeah, that's also just another thing that I'm like, okay, he's doing good. Like, Mom, me? like me talking to myself, you need to take care of you. You need to get back to a really good spot because it was really rocky road there. Like this wasn't all like rainbows and unicorns. I'm so thankful we can look back and say, wow, like he's come so far.
Hmm.
But it was not an easy journey by any means.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your use of essential oils. I know sometimes essential oils can be used for the adrenals. Sometimes they can be like healing or stimulating. So, what did you find was helpful when, or if anything, at that time? And then what about now? And what are you doing now, kind of as an ongoing basis for supporting him and yourself?
Yeah. So he's 17 now. And so it's hard. Mom doesn't really like apply essential oils anymore to my 17-year-old. At one time I did lots. So I kind of leave him on his own in that respect. He was really excited the other day to come down and like he turned in, we had this little, the owl diffuser.
Yes.
He turned it in to me the other day and he was like, I do not use this anymore. And I'm like, oh, like he used for a while, like I would fill it up every night and then he's filled up every night for a while. And now like he's like, I do not use this. But I was like, well, I have a bunch of diffusers in the basement. Do you want to look? And so he looked and he came out with one of those like mini Arias
Yeah.
that like, they have the glass dome. They're nice diffusers. So he actually went and found that and was like, oh, I'll put this in my room. I was like, okay. And then he came and found some oils to diffuse in his room.
Nice.
Um, so he mostly chose like, since it's winter right now, Christmas spirit, he likes lemon, he likes orange, which are always good, so good uplifting oils, especially for, I would always diffuse those when my kids are really small, like lemon and orange and citrus.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, yeah, I like these. And so he took those up and he's been diffusing in his room like the past several days ever since that happened. But when he was small, younger, and all this happened, um, nutmeg is really good for adrenal support. So we were using nutmeg on him for adrenal support. I was using a lot of stress away also. So stress away is really good on your mastoid bone behind your ears.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's where your vagus nerve is. Like, or well, not the only place it is, but we're a main place where it runs. And so lime essential oil, especially, which is in stress away, is helpful to kind of calm the vagal nerve. And so I would put that behind his ears a lot too. So we
Mm-hmm.
often do like nutmeg over the adrenals. Yeah, the stress away behind his ears. And then I think occasionally we do like energy, the blend on his wrists
Mm-hmm.
for just
Sorry.
extra added, yeah, support
Mm-hmm.
here.
I found NRG, or like energy, however you say that, NRG,
Mhm.
essential oil blend back when I was still recovering from adrenal fatigue. I didn't find it helpful. It just seemed like I don't know if this does anything.
Yeah,
But since I've healed, I feel like it specifically is helpful when I feel like emotionally tired. Like I'm emotionally tired. I just don't feel like peopling,
yeah.
that seems to be really helpful for me. But
Mhm.
the stress away and the nutmeg are, I think, great, even like you said, even in kind of like the recovery mode.
Mhm.
Nutmeg is like a plant analog for cortisol itself.
Mhm.
So it's likely that it was helping the medication work better, right? Since our
Yeah.
bodies get that information from essential oils about what to do with that hormone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
Okay.
always important to remember. Obviously, like we can't say these products like are going to heal you, and I
No.
don't think they do. I think they really remove that interference from the body. At
Hmm.
some level, they support the body on a lot of levels, and so that they're supporting the things that to work properly, to function properly, to calm the body, so that the body can heal itself.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and that's and like I think it's always important when you're looking for a practitioner
Hmm.
that thinks like that because I feel like you get a lot more results when you realize that we're just like removing interference, we're letting the body heal itself because that's what the body does.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I think you can actually find there's such a variety of practitioners, and even there's natural practitioners, which you end up finding just want to use certain products like medications
Mhm.
for suppressing symptoms or managing things instead of actually like what does this body need to become more vibrant, to have more energy, to create its own healing. And then what do we need to actually remove from lifestyle exposure, emotional patterns, nervous system patterns, so that the body can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really important because there's really, you know, I mean, little long-term value in managing symptoms, maybe short-term value.
Hmm.
I mean, we can
Hmm.
find some really short-term value in that, like when you're feeling
Hmm.
really bad and you need, sometimes you
Yeah.
may manage symptoms, but there's not really the long-term value in that
Hmm.
as far as long-term healing.
Yeah. That's good.
Mhm.
Well, we've covered a lot of things here with this. Um, feel like I mean, this is when we're talking about something that's like a chronic illness. And so there's so many there's so many touch points that you work on. And as a mom, so many things, it can be overwhelming when you start out. I love what you said when you said we first started with this, and I'm not actually sure that even helped. And I think so many chronic illness journeys are like that, where you just do the next thing that's offered to you, and then you do the next thing and the next thing, and you look back, you're like, I don't even know if step one was helpful, but at least I was stepping in a direction, right? And then asking and connecting with people and trying to find answers, and not, I think that's just the realization that's what a chronic illness journey looks like. We think like when we're little, we're like, when you're sick, you go to the doctor and they give you a pill and you get well.
Right.
And so if we have that mindset coming into this, like, no, I'm going to find that root cause and I'm going to, heal from the cellular level, we could think that we need to find one thing that's going to work. And it's like, well, it's actually going to be 30 things and they're going to be in succession, and you'll probably not find the first one first, but keep going. If you don't give up, that's the people that heal from chronic illness. The people that don't give up become their own advocate or are lucky enough to have a mom like you who advocates for them.
Yeah, I agree. And there's other things in there that I didn't even mention that when I think back, I'm like, yeah, we also tried that and that. And so I think that is really important to remember because I think a lot of times like we see that road and we're like it makes it harder on ourselves if we're like, oh, like I haven't found it yet. But the truth
Mhm.
is like every step in the journey, as you're stepping along, you're going to learn something. If especially if
Mhm.
you're aware, if you're getting more aware of your body, aware of how your body works, it's going to give you more awareness. And like awareness really too is some of your greatest asset.
Yeah, that's kind of like the diagnosis part of it, right? Like awareness, and not diagnosing necessarily even the illness, but like just the awareness, like, oh, my water isn't clean,
Mhm.
right? Like getting back to like the water thing, like, oh, I need to find a better source of good water. Just that awareness will then put your antenna up so that you're looking for like how you can do that and what's available to you to upgrade.
Mhm.
The other thing, and I think when we're in these journeys, we can get discouraged because if we dig enough, we realize like the only water we should be drinking is from this certain spring in the Alps
Right.
and whatever, right? Like, and I could pay $50 a gallon to have it shipped to me daily, whatever, right? I'm making this
Right.
stuff up. But we could have this like ideal situation. And
Mhm.
the reality is that's actually not at hand. And I think the idea of like, what's at hand for you? Is it at hand to have like a countertop filter? And then you can just filter your tap water. Okay, you made a huge step forward in having cleaner water. And then you find out, oh, but if I get some stem cells, I could filter it and then I could put a drop of this in and it's actually becoming better structure. Okay, now you made another step forward. And so just do the next thing what's available, because that water from the Alps is not available to you. Sorry, right? Unless
Right.
you want to move there. Maybe if you move there, sure, if you can, if that's at hand, do
Right.
it. Um, but I think it can be discouraging because as we dig, we can find that there's this unattainable ideal, and that itself is stressful, right? So
Yeah.
then we're
And
trying to
isn't
do
that
something
the
really
problem
hard.
also with the internet sometimes?
Yeah. that's true. We're
Uh,
exposed to more
I
options than
also
we
find
have.
that's when people get really overwhelmed with their health journeys because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing everything. Like when you're just need to do something, you know?
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's so
exactly.
true.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay, well, any final words of wisdom about mindset? As maybe this isn't the final word, this is like maybe the main thing. As a mom and going through this, what would you say to other moms who might feel overwhelmed or discouraged with their journey?
I would say keep going. Your mom gut
Mhm.
knows way more than you
Mm,
ever think.
so good. Hmm.
While I think doctors can be helpful at times, I don't want to throw them under the bus. I think doctors can be very helpful on your journey. I think mom still always really knows your child best. So don't
Hmm.
be afraid to question, and then just look for advocates for people that are for you. Look for
Hmm.
practitioners or doctors or whoever that are for you, because I feel like that road can be really lonely sometimes because you don't feel like people are partnering with you.
Hmm.
So yeah, either find other moms that maybe have been on the journey if you can, or doctors that have been on the journey, or other types of practitioners or nutritional therapists or something that can like advocate for you,
Hmm.
help educate you, and just yeah,
Hmm.
keep taking the next step because you know your kid and yourself and your family better than anybody does.
Hmm.
And I think it's
And
really
you're
important to remember that.
That's good. So good. And you're going to be fighting for them. You are fighting
Yeah,
for them.
you're
Yeah.
fighting for them. And
Hmm.
that's what I always think looking back. I'm like, I think that that doctor had Caden's best in mind,
Hmm.
but I'm the one that's going to fight for him.
Hmm.
And I did. And she told, like, that original doctor told me that she thought I was wasting my money on
Hmm.
anything extra I was trying, which totally
Hmm.
stressed me out too. But you know what? Like I wasn't wasting my money. My son
Hmm.
is healthy, he's whole, he's like thriving
Hmm.
right now. And I was really hard on myself at the time, but I wouldn't take any of it back. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
you
One
know,
thing that I think is interesting that I realized at some point in my journey when I had, gone to several doctors and then either tried what they had or basically was like, no, I'm not trying that medication, whatever, and pivoted away and found answers and found new answers and found more answers, was realizing that those earlier doctors, they didn't know my journey. Like they hadn't kept up with me and I hadn't kept up with them. And so when I had sat there and said, does anyone get well from this? And they had said, no, you'll be on this for life. They actually don't even know which of their patients fired them, basically, right? Or,
no, I mean,
just
I've never told her he's recovered.
right.
So she doesn't know.
And we should. We both should be going back to some of those doctors and kind of just giving them the update so they know what's possible. Because I do think doctors go into that field because they want to help people. They literally are never trained in these things. Some of them are newly emerging. That's part of it, right? And we're the ones that are willing to spend money, possibly throw it away, right? For the hope that
Sure.
we would totally regenerate.
Yeah.
But they never, if we don't go back and tell them, they won't know to give hope to the next person who's sitting in on their table, right?
Yeah, I've thought about that before too. And you wonder, I'm like, because that's their job security too, but not, some of that's unconscious. I'm not saying
Yeah.
she's totally conscious, like they're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say she had bad intentions, but yeah, I mean, on one hand, yeah, she told me he never, like never, it'll never work. You're wasting your money.
Mm.
And to think, yeah, I mean, would she like to know that we didn't waste our money actually?
I don't know. I think they do because, you and I have both been in multiple trainings, courses, those things where it's either a year long or a week long intensive, whatever. And
Yeah,
some of our classmates, many of our classmates are licensed medical professionals, right?
yeah, that's
Nurses,
true.
doctors, others. And they're there because they know that they don't have all the answers initially, and they're seeking more and more therapies and ways to be able to support their patients. So I do think that these people, many of them, are there because they really want the health of their patients.
Yeah.
Um, but it's kind of on them to go seek out those new things, just like it's been on us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, we should wrap this up. Thank you all for listening with us today, but we don't want you to feel lonely. If you're on a health journey and feel like you are forging the way alone, all three of us, Andrea, as well as Becky and myself, are practitioners. Becky and I are nutritional therapy practitioners, and we all have multiple certifications in multiple therapies. So connect with us if you feel like you want to have I think all of us are currently doing one-on-ones
Mhm.
and or just connect with us. Like we all have social media channels where we write and publish and different things, our thoughts, and we just want you to feel supported. Sometimes you just need somebody to walk alongside. Sometimes you just need to know that another mom is doing it, in a state near you, kind of a thing. And so if that encourages you, please just seek us out and know that you're not alone and that there's other moms that are advocating for their families, finding health answers and thriving and coming into new health. So thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today on the Overflow podcast.
Bye.